Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to overcome any addiction, how to get the results you want, and how to achieve true fulfillment. It sounds very clickbaity, especially with the title, The Cure to Addiction Nobody's Talking About. But I assure you, the solutions I'm going to give you in this video, they're going to be easy to understand, easily applicable, and they're going to work, most importantly of all. They're going to be efficient solutions. Before I get to that, I just want to go over my story first, the things that I went through, so that you know that the solutions I'm going to give you, they're coming from someone who's experienced the things that you're probably going through, the trials and tribulations of addiction and so on. Everything starts, I think, like first grade. I think you're like 7 or 8 years old in first grade. It started in first grade. I was a very emotional kid, even before first grade, but point is I was very emotional. And whenever something just like wouldn't go my way, I would usually I would react very emotionally. So if somebody said something I didn't like, if somebody made fun of me, if somebody told me to do something I didn't want to do, or something that angered me, it would, I would show the emotion a lot. I would react very emotionally. And in first grade, there was this desk in the classroom. It was like a miscellaneous desk in the back corner where, it's like that one desk where just a bunch of stuff gets put on it, but nobody's really using it. It's just just to put stuff on it that doesn't fit in the room, or that you might need to use for later but you don't need it now, that kind of stuff. So that desk was in the back corner, and whenever I didn't like something that was going on, I would this is so embarrassing, I would get up, go to that, because it was there was chairs stacked up on the desk, but it was wide enough so that the chairs were on the stacked up on each corner, or on one side, but the middle was open. It probably for putting books and extra stuff down, but I saw it as a place to put my head down. So whenever something just didn't go my way, or it felt like I was being pressured too much for something, I would get up, go to that desk, and put my head down until I felt better. I don't even know what I did. I imagine I just got up and went back to my desk when it was over. It got to a point where the teacher, she just kind of fucking let it happen. Before she would come up and talk to me, but then it got to a point where it was she couldn't keep disrupting the whole class just to tend to this one little kid who can't control himself. In this one day, the same thing, routine happens again. I get angry or emotional at something. I get up and I go to this desk and I put my head down. One of my friends at the time comes up to me and tries to cheer me up, which it sounds harmless, but he makes he's making a bunch of sex jokes, to put it bluntly. He's making a bunch of obviously they're not when you get older and it's there's more, there's just more to the joke when you're older, but now it was just haha, sex funny, haha, penis, and saying a bunch of stuff like that. And then that led me to it did work. I'll admit it did work. I was sitting there, it made me laugh, but that led me to getting kind of curious, because I still didn't have an understanding of what it was. I was hearing him make all these jokes, but I half understood them. So what did I do as a young kid? I went on my mom's phone later that day, and I don't even remember what exactly it was I searched up. Probably literally just sex. That must have been what I searched up. And then I go to images. And that was the first time in first grade, by the way, like 7, 8 years old. First time that I'm being exposed to pornographic material. I'm not even double digits yet, and I'm already seeing this type of content. I actually remember that my mom, like the first time that happened, because I was a little dumb caveman kid. I didn't understand how to delete search history, or let alone switch tabs. So my mom goes on her phone, sees this despicable, horrendous site, and is like, "Son, what are you doing? What, bro? Don't look at this." And I'm like, I think I actually listened to her for a while. I was like, "Oh, okay, I won't do it again." But came or no, come second grade, third grade, I think it was third grade, I transitioned from the little flip phone for contact, for just like basic communication. I switched from that to an iPhone. And from there, I think you already know what happens from here. Especially since in third grade, there was even more of like those kind of sexual jokes. And now there's even like the names of certain adult actresses being named in third grade. Like these little fucking these little 10-year-olds are talking about which star is the best. And I'm like, dude, what? I don't know. No, that's a lie. I wasn't like weirded out by it. I was probably involved in those conversations, like listening. But yeah, like third grade it must have been. That's when like I actually began to develop an addiction. And it didn't stop. Like for many years I just kind of was walking with that addiction. Not to mention I had video game addiction since before first grade. I was already addicted to video games. So now I had a video game addiction, which was not only keeping me irresponsible, it was now I had a pornography addiction, which is going to in the future make socializing with anyone, but most importantly the opposite gender, it was going to make it nearly impossible. So that continued, and it was bad. Like I hated myself, and I'm not saying this to like get pity out of you. Like, oh my god, I'm like, I don't want you to go in the comments. Oh, yeah, dude, that must have been so tough, bro. I'm not saying this because of that. I was super insecure. Like I hated myself. I was I don't want to say depressed, but I was always angry at everything. Like I was always just negative, I was always feeling like sad. If I was getting bullied or something, I would just kind of let them push me around because I didn't know what to do, I never had someone to like discipline me and tell me, no, fight back. Like I was always I kind of just let it happen. And my diet was very bad. I was addicted to social media at this point too, because imagine I have which actually worsened the pornography addiction, because a lot of social media is like softcore porn. It's like a lot of things are sexualized, there's a lot of sexual content just on surface level social media. So that prompts people to go onto the sites they're trying to avoid. I had a social media addiction, a pornography addiction, a video game addiction, a junk food addiction, kinda. I never really struggled with food like a lot of people. I will admit. That was one of like the least of my concerns. Quitting junk food is actually like the easiest thing to do. That and video games. But yeah, this is all like, keep in mind, this is all before I've even hit puberty. I had think about that. I was masturbating, pleasuring myself before I'm even at puberty. So that must have literally destroyed my hormone levels. I had I went through that for a pretty long time, up until 8th grade, where not only did I have these addictions, but I started smoking weed as well. So now that's the video game addiction, the porn addiction, the social media addiction, and now I have a weed addiction. I think out of I don't want to like compare addictions, but I the worst one, like the worst addictions that I went through are probably the pornography addiction and the weed addiction, because the pornography addiction obviously made it harder to socialize. It made me very undisciplined. It made me, like, when I would just go talk, like when I would encounter girls or women, like I would just immediately sexualize them without really wanting to. I would look at them, and because of like the fact that I've seen all this material already, my brain just immediately started sexualizing these women who may have not even been talking to me. They might have just been walking past. But that's what porn did to me. And that's what it does to every young guy. If you're a young male watching this video and you're telling yourself that this is healthy, or you don't want to admit that you're going through the same thing, I don't know how to put this, but shut up. If you're like admitting or not wanting to admit that this is your reality, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, like I was saying, so the porn addiction, it was bad because I started like sexualizing a bunch of like women just automatically. I started being less and less able to socialize. And then once I got the weed addiction, now I was taking money from my parents to fuel this addiction. So I was literally in instant gratification hell. I'll give you my routine, right? My 8th grade CEO routine. I would get up, be angry at the world. I don't know. I already had like very bad habits. I was probably staying up late. So I would wake up just in a bad mood automatically. Take it out on my mother, just treat her like shit for absolutely no reason. Go to school, worrying about my looks and my appearance or whatever, because that's like the only sense of some sort of validation that I would get from people. Maybe, sometimes, never really. Spend the whole day anxious, sitting on my seat. It was so bad. Like, I've never experienced to that level of insecurity in my whole life. Up until that point, I never experienced anxiety the way I did. I felt like every single move that I made was judged, that it was like analyzed by some little 13-year-old fucking loser. Not loser, but you know what I mean. Like random ass kid's judgment was making me worried. It was concerning me, and I would spend the whole day anxious because of that. I would literally sit there like genuinely shaking. It was very I imagine it was subtle, but I was super nervous. Then I would walk home, which the walk to school and the walk home it was probably the only time I got sunlight during the day, to be honest. Come home, don't even look at the kitchen because it's dirty, but I don't want to do the dishes. I don't feel like it. So I didn't do it. go to my room, scroll on TikTok, play video games the whole day. Don't even do my homework. Don't even open Google Classroom. Mom gets home, gets angry because, nothing's done in the house. She just got home from like a 7-8 hour shift. Now she has to come home and clean the house. Make some excuse. Look, oh, it's 7 p.m. Let's watch the clock. Let's just watch it get late. I'm waiting to hear that door. There's like my mom's room is right next to mine. I'm waiting to hear that door shut so that I have permission, so that I have the opportunity to go into my closet, take 2 blunts out, smoke them, open a bag of Doritos, sit in my bed, and scroll through social media, eat. Oh, it's 2 a.m. I should go to sleep. Maybe an hour later. 4 a.m. Now I have to go to sleep, man. It's way too late. Sleep, wake up, same thing happens. And eighth grade was one of the lowest points of my life. I know, like, I haven't lived a long time. A lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is still very recent, but still, eighth grade was such a low point. Come August of last year, when I graduated eighth grade, and a lot of this is thanks to my friend. I'm not gonna name him, but he's a great friend. Seriously, he's amazing. He's the one who got me to go to the gym, to do all these things, to improve myself. He's the one who actually got me into getting my shit together, basically. So a lot of the thanks goes to him. That year, or in that month, is when I started to go to the gym, and then slowly I started improving on everything else. Like, I fixed my diet. I slowly stopped playing video games because I recognized that, okay, I have to quit. If I want to improve in this, if I want to get ahead, I have to quit all these addictions I have. I have to quit being irresponsible. I have to get my shit together. I have to be disciplined. So I did. I began working towards those things. And for video games and weed, those are the easiest to quit. Weed was mainly a problem because it got my family into issues more than it did me. I wasn't now looking back, calling it an addiction is kind of an inaccuracy because I wasn't necessarily addicted to weed. I loved it. Like, seriously, I was always looking for some way to get it. But at the same time, it was so easy to quit. And that must have been because I had no money. I wasn't working, so I had no money. Therefore, I had nothing to go spend with. I didn't want to steal from my parents again because I understood that was wrong, that was immoral, that was evil. So I stopped doing that. And then the addiction kind of just left. So weed and video games were the easiest for me to quit. The most difficult, by far, by like a mile, pornography. Pornography was the most difficult for me to quit. Junk food, video games, and weed, super easy to quit. Social media too. Social media was extremely easy for me to quit. I quit basically on the same day that I recognized it was an addiction. I stopped instantly. But pornography kind of just lingered. It was the most difficult one. Like, I couldn't just pull my phone away from the room because I was super addicted. I would go get it. I would literally get up and go get my phone, or I would without my phone, without even having the material directly there. By far, porn was the hardest for me to quit. And I kept struggling. I struggled for like a long time until I realized that there was a lack of something. Not only was there a lack of something, but I was going in the completely wrong direction. I was approaching this problem from the wrong angle. I realized that putting these things away, like putting these things further away from me, opening my door, opening my curtains, which I mean, I always leave them open, but trying to avoid closing my curtains, none of these things worked. So what is understood is that the material required to quit any addiction, it's not physical, nor is it therapy, because talking to someone, it can help mitigate the situation for a little bit, but the next day, possibly even the same day, that kind of motivation wears off. And talking to someone isn't going to help as much as talking to yourself and fighting that internal battle. Addiction is an internal battle. There's not a lot that other people can do. It's mainly you who has to take action. So physical, the requirements to quit addiction are not physical. It's not therapy. It's mental. It's you. It's your mind. If you can take control of your mind and can get your brain to act and to think in a certain way and to control your circumstances, you can triumph literally any addiction. And this doesn't apply to only addictions. You can conquer any problem that you're experiencing in your life, because you need to set up a mental framework that is going to get you to actually overcome. You know, it doesn't matter what is in your exterior environment. If this is not prepared, you're never going to win. The framework to this no limits, unrelenting optimism and willpower lies in philosophy, specifically two types of philosophy: Stoicism and Cynicism. If you're not familiar with these philosophies, it's fine, because I'm going to give you a simplified explanation so that you don't end up needing more videos just to get some context on what I'm going to be talking about. And if you are more familiar with these philosophies and you already understand them, I'm going to be giving you methods that you can apply directly to your life right now to keep you from caving into temptation and indulgence. Stoicism is the belief that one should control what he or she can and focus on only that. One should only focus on being the best person they can, only making decisions that contribute to the community, that contribute to the common good, decisions that benefit the people, that help everyone else. Free from fear or anxiety, Stoicism stresses the importance of taking control of your own emotions and reactions to the world, only focusing on being a man or woman of wisdom, kindness, indifference, and acceptance. Cynicism, mostly known for the disciple of Antisthenes, Diogenes of Sinope, is the idea that society is bad and that its arbitrary ideas of status and materialism are what makes humans evil and prevent us from achieving true happiness and fulfillment. Cynicism is the rejection of modern society in favor of a simpler life, one in nature, without materialistic possessions, hierarchies, or statuses. Diogenes and the Cynics argued that this was the way to true happiness, that by rejecting modernism and embracing nature, one could achieve true fulfillment. What's great about these philosophies and what makes them the cure to addiction is that they are easily applicable and immediately applicable. Stoicism requires that you control your emotions, and Cynicism requires that you separate from all that it from consumerism, basically consumerism and modernism. These two philosophies are infinitely more easy to apply than, for example, Descartes' "I think, therefore I am," or Spinoza's God. Regarding how to apply them, what you must understand before you actually get to applying these is you must understand the fundamentals behind each philosophy. Stoicism is the idea of self-control, righteousness, acceptance, and indifference. Cynicism is the detachment from what's modern, from what's arbitrary, from what you don't need. To detach from your modern lifestyle that has kept you addicted to all these different things, that has kept you a consumer, that has kept you a slave to all these corporate companies, you must let go. That is it. That's all you have to do. The reason you haven't canceled that Netflix subscription, the reason that you haven't stopped binge eating or smoking weed isn't because you can't. It's because you don't want to. You haven't convinced your brain that this is a necessary step to take. You're still listening to your desires, and this is a combination of both stoicism and cynicism. You need to take some action right now. Any subscriptions you have, cancel them immediately. Just forget that there was even enjoyment in them, right? This is the cynic part. This is the cynic philosophy that you need to accept. You are detaching from what is unnecessary, from what you don't need. And the stoic part of this is that you're controlling your emotions, you're controlling your desires. This is why these philosophies are so necessary. To detach from your modern lifestyle that has kept you addicted and it has kept you a consumer to all these different corporate companies, that has made you a slave to these corporate companies and these corporate brands. Those two are really the same, but whatever. All you need to do is let go. That's it. That's all that's required of you. The reason you haven't canceled that Netflix subscription, the reason you haven't stopped binge eating or smoking weed, it isn't because you can't. It's because you haven't convinced your brain that this is necessary, that this is a step that you must take. You're still listening to your bodily desires and temptations. You're too attached to these things. So you need to take some action right now and start working towards rewiring your brain. First thing, any subscriptions you have, any social media apps you have, anything, delete it. Delete all of it except what you use. YouTube, because you watch videos like this. Maybe you post videos on this. Before you have time to make excuses like, I need YouTube Premium because no ads, or no, I want to keep this one app because I have like a lot of online friends there. Ignore it. It doesn't serve to help you. You clicked on this video because you understood that you have a problem. You understood that you do need to fix it. So why would you listen to the voice that has kept you from fixing the problem? Why would you listen? It's like a lot of people with money will tell you the worst thing you can do is listen to a poor man's advice on finance. And the same thing applies here. Why would you listen to the voice that tells you, no, masturbation is actually healthy because it reduces your risk of prostate cancer, versus the guy who's saying, no, diet's going to prevent most cancers anyway. Quit pornography because it's going to help your romance, it's going to help your libido, it's going to help your testosterone, it's going to have all these benefits, it's going to prevent all these other things at the same time. Who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the guy who knows more, who's more educated than you, right? You're not going to listen to the guy who's trying to hold you back. If you were running a race and you had like this weighted ball attached to your ankle, you would probably want to get it off, right? Would you listen to the guy who's saying, oh, hey, I'm a blacksmith, I can like literally just cut it off for you, I'm very experienced in that field, and I can literally help you finish the race without this metal ball hanging on your ankle the whole time? Or you can listen to the little goblin behind you who's like, no, keep it on because there's actually so many benefits. It's going to make your tibia stronger and all this stuff. Who are you going to listen to? The guy who's going to free you, right? I know I went on like a little rant there, but this is very important for you to understand that you can't listen to that voice anymore. You can't listen to the guy who's saying this is okay, you need this. You can't listen to that guy anymore because he's wrong. It's not a part of you. You need to treat this guy in your head as an enemy. You can't treat it as an extension of yourself. You have to imagine that there's like this little fucking parasite in your brain trying to convince you to go down the wrong path at all times. And you need to beat the shit out of him. That's what you have to do every single time he appears. Same thing, like I said before, if there's any drugs you're taking, throw them away. Obviously, if you're on medication, if they're prescribed to you, do your research first. Because I'm not going to say don't do it, because there's a lot of cases where people end up like being fine not taking their medication. It actually does them better to not be on medication and to just change up their diet or something. But if you're like on something that is like required for you to take, do your research first. talk to multiple doctors, okay? Both people who have like knowledge on medicine that you might know, people on YouTube, and then the doctors that you're going to. Make sure like that it's like okay with your doctors and everything, but assuming that you're like the majority watching this video, you're probably doing it recreationally. You're doing it for pleasure, for instant gratification. You're not doing it for a health benefit or because it's prescribed to you. You're doing it because you hate your life, you hate your situation, or you tried it once and the pleasure was too much. And so you kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. Assuming you're like that majority, throw it away. Throw it away. I actually have like this thing for checking accounts and stuff like that. Make sure that all the money you make is going somewhere. It's going into an emergency fund. It's going into business expenses, investing in the business. It's going into something that you're going to need in the future, you know? Make sure that the money is constantly flowing somewhere where you need it to be. This way you don't give yourself time. You don't give yourself the option to go buy like an eighth or something like that. You don't give yourself the option to go buy a pre-roll because your money is in places that needs to stay. It needs to keep flowing in that position. And you're going to fuck yourself over financially if you do take it out of that place. The next time that you're in a supermarket, this is another thing that's really important is what a lot of people seem to forget, or not forget, but it's something that I don't really see anyone talking about is a phrase. So whenever you pass by a supermarket and you see something that like fires up the temptation, you know, something that triggers you, or a friend offers you a hit of something, recite. There's actually, I'm gonna give you like something to recite right now, but you can make your own. You can take a quote from a philosopher. It can be anything, just anything that keeps you on the path. But here's what I'm gonna give you. Anytime that you get into the situations where you want to cave into your desires, repeat this. Write this on a paper, hang it up on your wall, whatever. I am in control of my body. My body is servant to the mind, not the other way around. My bodily desires do not reflect what I want, what I need. Only my mind can decide that, and my mind is deciding to ignore this desire. The reason this is so important is because until you believe that you have full control of your addiction, that you believe that this isn't something that you need, you don't need this, your body wants it, but your brain doesn't. Once you convince yourself and get yourself in that mindset, there's no way that you're not gonna win. There's no way that you can be defeated by anything. Because this goes beyond just addiction. It's about conquering life itself. If you can set up that idea in your mind that no, this isn't what I want. I'm not going to let this take over. I'm not going to let this convince me that I need it. Because I don't. I don't need it. I don't want it. I know in like more severe cases, it's like it becomes impossible to ignore because you have like heroin, for example. The withdrawals can literally kill you. So you can't just go, I don't want this, and you're having a fucking heart attack on the floor. But most of us are not heroin addicts. Most of us are not fentanyl abusers. Most of us are struggling with mainstream media addiction, social media addiction, pornography, lighter drugs like weed, nicotine. Things where the withdrawal, even though they might be painful, they're not going to necessarily kill us. Again, I want to reiterate that the reason now on the bright side, all these things that we're struggling with have the same solution. That's why I named this video The Cure to Addiction, because these philosophies can be applied to multiple addictions at the same time. It doesn't have to just be, oh, okay, I quit junk food with this philosophy, but I'm struggling with porn. You can quit all of these simultaneously by just controlling your desires, by convincing your brain that, no, my body isn't in control. I'm in control. This thing is going to harm me. It's going to harm my mind and my body. I don't want it. If you can get yourself in that mindset, You don't just have to be quitting pornography. You don't just have to be quitting anything. You can be achieving stuff at the same time. So by this point, we've outlined that to quit your addictions, you must let go of your possessions and you must rewire the way you approach these addictions in the first place. The problem is that these motivational mindsets only work for a few days, a few hours even. So how do we keep ourselves disciplined? Because that is what we need, right? Instead of relying on motivation, you hear this all the time, don't rely on motivation, rely on discipline, because discipline keeps you going through the hard times. But it's very difficult to keep yourself disciplined, especially against something like temptation and indulgence, something that is so powerful. I know I said don't give it power, but these things are strong. We'd be coping if we weren't admitting that. These things are strong. So how do we triumph? How do we keep ourselves disciplined? How do we adopt the cynic way of life, the stoic way of life? We hold ourselves accountable every step of the way for our victories and our defeats, for our wins and our losses. We keep ourselves accountable. How do you do this? First, journal. Journaling is super important, okay? Because when you're journaling, you're not writing for anyone else except yourself. You don't have to hide, like potentially with a therapist, where you're sitting there, you might hold something back because you don't want to admit it. With journaling, it's like a free space to just admit everything, to just spill all your secrets. Every night, regardless of whether you caved into temptation or whether you triumphed, write down what happened, what you caved into, what you think went right or wrong. And if you don't know, theorize. Think, what could it be? Could it be a mental thing? Is it environmental? Next, get a friend. Getting a friend, a real friend, not just someone who like a yes man. Get someone who's gonna hold you accountable. My Muay Thai coach says this a lot. If you're gonna go for a run, if you're gonna do like an activity or something, get a friend, because discipline becomes so much easier when there's someone alongside you to kind of, hit you in the back and be like, yo, come on, let's go. When the example he uses, if you agree to go on a run with someone and they're waiting for you at 5 p.m., you're 10 times more likely to actually show up because someone else is counting on you. It's a lot easier to let yourself down than to let somebody else down. Because we're social creatures. We value the opinions of other people a lot. So becoming disciplined is a lot easier when we have like that kind of image to hold up. Now, this isn't me saying make discipline your image. I'm not saying do it for the status. Because remember, the main idea of cynicism is that these things like status and hierarchy are arbitrary, that they're meaningless. And that they're going to prevent you from living the way you want. They're going to prevent you from being happy. So by all means, find someone to discipline yourself, or find someone that's going to help you discipline yourself, but don't make your appearance, the image of a disciplined person. Don't make that your goal. Make becoming disciplined itself the goal, and have that other friend there to assist you, to keep you accountable. Accountability for your actions is super important. It keeps you from making excuses. The main reason a lot of people fail is because they constantly make excuses. They tell themselves that what they did wasn't their fault, that, oh, I couldn't have control of that, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. They make a bunch of excuses to avoid the reality of the situation. And that's why discipline fails for a lot of people, because without even knowing it, they're still relying on motivation. They're still relying on the feeling, that kind of burn, that fire to get going. They're not lighting the fire themselves. It's like no, the example I was going to give you was kind of shit, but the journey is going to become a lot easier if you take accountability. Not only because you're reminding yourself that there's no excuses, that you must stay disciplined, but it's so much easier to actually move ahead in life when you are constantly thinking about what is going wrong. When you fail, instead of avoiding the reality and continuing to fail for months and months, possibly even years, that same night you sit down at your desk and you say, What did I do wrong? Why did this happen? Why did I fail today? What could have possibly, out of all the things that could have gone wrong, what exactly caused me to fail? The answers become so much clearer when you take this direct approach to life. When you stop being a pussy, in other words. When you stop saying that, oh, no, this couldn't have been my fault. This must have been the fault of some external force that I have absolutely no control over, that is just completely has total domination over me, and I'm completely submissive to it. That's a bitch way of life. That's a bitch way of thinking. You have to tell yourself, admit to yourself, because this is the reality, that for the most part, you are in control of your life. That for the most part, you are responsible for the things that happen to you. Or not exactly the things that happen to you, but you're responsible for the way you react to them. You're responsible for the response you give 100% of the time. If you can wake up every morning and remind yourself that these two philosophies are going to take you along the path, that they're going to guide you, that the only way to approach life is with righteousness, with minimalism, with acceptance and indifference, with discipline. You're going to quit. You're not only going to quit any addiction you have, you're going to get so far ahead of your competition. It's crazy. You're going to get so far ahead of everyone around you. Which I know a lot of people, they don't really care about that. They just want to improve their lives. But I'm just kind of reinforcing the point that these two philosophies are going to get you so far if you follow them correctly. As a final send-off, I'm going to give you 2 books to read. One of them is related to philosophy, the other isn't. It's more like just a mindset book. The first one is The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I think I've recommended this book 15 times and I've only had 12 videos. I love this book. I love it. This book is... It's Stoicism 101, basically. It teaches you how exactly the mind of a Stoic works, because the Meditations isn't a book about like teaching you how to be Stoic. It's Marcus Aurelius writing to himself. It's his journal. He's telling himself, he's reminding himself how to be Stoic. So, only thing when you read that book, read it like it's a journal to yourself. Don't read it like he's trying to teach you something, like the author made it for you, because then it becomes like a lot more confusing. Sometimes there's like things in there that have context that we're just not aware about, because only Marcus knew what the context was. But that's going to be, and Mindset, Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. That mindset is not philosophy related, but it's a book about how believing, it's basically a book about like different mindsets, the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. How the growth mindset, believing that failures do not establish who you are as a person, that failures are there to help mold your character, is a mindset that helps people succeed and that is statistically shown to help people succeed in the future, compared to fixed mindsets, people who believe that their failures and their successes define who they are as people. It's a really good book. They're both really good books. Watch some videos on cynicism. Get familiar with Diogenes of Sinope, what he said, what he preached, what the Cynics were all about. And yeah, that's going to be it for today. Let me know in the comments. Was this a good video? Were these solutions actually applicable to your life? Do you think was everything well articulated? Did it make sense? But anyway, like I said, that's going to be the end of this video. I don't know what the fuck I just said. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.